Hi there. I wanted to give you a little bit more information about the book group project. You'll find some information on Canvas under modules, and you'll also find some information in your notes packet. But I wanted to review that information and hopefully clear up any questions you might be having. Okay, so this is a project that you will do as a group, and I will be putting you into groups next class period. And as a group, you will choose a novel from the list of titles that I have here. You can also recommend a title of your own if there's a book, a fiction book that you have read or are interested in reading and using for this project. I try and be pretty open. I just want to know what that selection is and to get it approved through me so that I can make sure it's one that works for this type of project. But like I said, you have a list of possible titles here. And before you make a selection, you might want to go and do some research on any of these titles. If things matter to you, such as page length or who the author is or when it was published, you can do a little bit of that work before you make your selection. And anyhow, as a group, you will decide on the one text that you will be using for the project. And then this project will be your final. So it will be the last week of our class. So instead of having an essay due or any kind of major writing project, this is just a discussion. So you can bring whatever notes you want, but I won't be collecting them. The only thing that you'll have to do is, as far as writing goes, is you will have a blog. You will set up for your book and for your project, and each member of the group will post 3 blog posts. So these are some of the types of posts you can make. So you can make a link to an article or a review or a video or a website about your novel. You can have a visual text like an image or a picture, symbol. You can do any creative projects that you want. So, people have made like art or they've written songs. Somebody even actually made a cake related to their book. So, a discussion board. You can, have a discussion with your group and pose questions. You can outline the novel components that are listed above here, and I'm going to go over those in a second. You can make reading questions or a reading quiz, 10 questions minimum. Or you can have 5 quotes from the novel and an analysis of what they mean. So you can have a variety of posts. You have to have 2 different types, so you can't have all of them visual text or all 3 discussion boards. But you will post those to the blog, and that is the only writing that you'll have to do for this project. I made this project at the end of the semester, your final, because I wanted to give you a break in your writing. And also because I know that you're going to have other finals that you might be studying for and preparing for. And I also did this because it's my way of hopefully or ideally giving you 50 points at a time when you might really need them. So some students, what they do is they choose not to do the project, not to participate, which is totally fine. Even though it's a group project, every member gets his or her own grade. So as it says here, you guys all receive your own grade, so you don't have to worry about any of your other members like being slackers or not getting in touch with them. You are responsible for your work and your work alone. So the only reason I put you in a group is so that you can use each other as a resource of information and you can have a discussion if you'd like. But you don't have to. So how it works is on the day that your group is presenting or discussing, we will be in a circle. We'll put our desks in a circle and the rest of the class will be around us and they'll be listening in on our conversation because they're going to end up writing questions for you, for the group as well. And we will just discuss different aspects of the novel. So I will be asking questions for the entire group, so everybody to answer. I will ask each group member their own question, and I will really go to this blog and see what they've posted. So let's say one of the members posted an image or a visual text. I will choose to ask that member a question about the image that they posted. Because again, I'm trying to play to your strengths here, and I really want to give you 50 points. I know that some of you might really need it. It might make the difference in a letter grade for you. So I'm really your champion with this project. So I'm going to go and ask each member their own question, and then I'm going to ask some questions that anybody can answer. Everybody doesn't have to answer, but anybody can answer. So, in the questions I'm going to ask the group are based on these different components. So, whether it's guideline questions, so I'll be asking what questions did you have while you were reading this novel or right when you finished reading it that you were able to answer for yourself once you did a little bit of research after reading the novel. So maybe it's something about why did they title it, The Lovely Bones, or why is it The Kite Runner, or why was this character in the novel? They didn't seem to add too much. They didn't really carry the novel that well, or why do they have this reoccurring symbol or phrase in the novel? What does that mean? So you'll have a guideline question, or a few guideline questions, and then you'll have the answers as well. I'll ask questions about passages. So I'll say, what are some passages that you think really demonstrate the author's writing style? So maybe they're very descriptive, or maybe they're technical, or maybe it's an interesting perspective that the narrator takes, or maybe they are written in dialect, or it's in a letter format. So you will choose a couple passages that you think really demonstrate that author's writing style, and then you choose a couple passages that are important for the overall novel. So moments, significant moments, like maybe it's we meet a new character, or maybe the climax of the novel, or maybe it's a part where one of the secrets is revealed, or something like that. So you'll have two different sets of passages. Narrator point of view, who's telling us the story, and can we count on them to be objective storytellers, or are they so subjective that we can't really trust the information that they tell us, or we have to remember and keep in mind that they have a skewed point of view. Plot summary. This is where you talk about major events that happen in the novel. So maybe it is where everything is laid out, like the whole story begins. So that's the exposition. So setting up where the action is going to happen, or maybe we get the first conflict in the story, or maybe it's where I don't know, the climax of the novel. So just point by point, what are the significant moments that take place as the story progresses? That's plot summary. Character outline is where you will outline the main characters, and by outline I mean you will tell me who they are, and what they're like. So you'll refer back to specific actions that they do, or things that they say or think, or are said or spoken to them. And then you might want to talk about how they interact with each other. So for character, you're just trying to tell me who are the major players in this novel, and how do they function in the story. Context is about really putting this novel within a larger context or perspective. So thinking about when this novel was published, or the time period that it's written about. You can make it a personal context. So how do you relate to this story? Do you have similar experiences, or is it a similar climate in society at the time? So that's context, is trying to pull this novel and put it into its place and time. And you can, again, relate to that personally if you'd like, or you can do historically, a little bit of background of the period. All of that is context. And then theme. This is what you come up with when you're considering all of these other components. You can, look at theme and what is this novel doing, or what ideas does it cover? Now, theme is not the same thing as a moral or a lesson, because morals and lessons, that's really for folk tales or fairy tales or fables to deliver. But literature is more complex, and it takes a more complex view of society and the human condition and what it is to be human in the world. And so it will raise a lot of questions about some pretty lofty subjects. So a theme is an attitude or perspective about a topic. So sometimes when I'll ask students, what is the theme of a novel, they'll say something like, peace or family. Well, that's a subject, it's not a theme. So a theme is a perspective or an opinion or an idea about a subject. So what is this novel saying about family, or what is it saying about peace? That's where you come up with theme. But again, you want to wait to kind of get some ideas about these other components before you start wrestling with theme. And usually there's more than one theme. For a good piece of literature, it's got a couple of different themes working. And you'll see it expressed throughout or in all of these different components, or a majority of these different components. So as we have the discussion, I'm going to come in and I'm going to ask some questions to everybody. I'm going to ask some questions to particular group members, and I will ask some questions for anybody in the group to answer. So I'd come in and I'd say, okay, can anybody tell me a passage that really demonstrates the author's writing style? And whoever wants to can answer that question. Or I might say to a particular group member, can you tell me one of the themes of this novel and how you see it carried throughout? Or can you tell me the character dynamic between two different characters of your choice, two of the main characters? Or I might say, who's your favorite character or least favorite character and why? What are they like? So all of these questions I'm going to be asking you, I'd like you to go back to the novel directly, because that's what we're learning in this class, is how to go back to text to support an opinion. So you can say, oh, well, I think this is the, least sympathetic character because they're like this and because this happened and that happened. And you can refer directly back to the novel. Or this is, one of the major events in the novel, and here it happens. Let me read it to you. It's on page, I don't know, 73 or something. So these questions that I'm going to be asking you are ones that are going to play to your strengths, because I'm going to look at the blog post that you shared in preparation for the project discussion, and I'm going to try and ask you questions about things that you've already covered. But they are going to be my questions are going to be related to these different components or elements of the book. And each person is going to get their own grade, each member. And there may be members that opt out and decide that they are not in need of 50 points. They can get a 0 out of 50, and they'll still maintain whatever score they have in the class, and it's the one they want. So they decided to opt out of the project, and they won't be taking place in the discussion or reading the novel, and they instead will be just a member of the audience, and they're going to spend their time on maybe another final or something that they choose. So there's some rules of the project that I went over, but you are expected to prepare for the discussion outside of class. So definitely come to my office hours. I'd love to help you. I don't expect that you will be able to answer all these components, maybe like author's writing style. Maybe this is the first novel you've ever read, so you don't have no idea what the style is like. I am happy to answer questions, any questions about this novel throughout the semester, because you'll be preparing on your own. Outside of class. You'll be doing some research. You can come to me. I'm happy to answer any questions. You'll be ready to hold discussion before you walk into class. You will not be preparing during class. You can use any supplementary materials. So go to Sparks Notes, go to Cliff's Notes, and get some information about this novel. You have to read the novel because you have to go back to specific places in the novel. So, but definitely use these extra study materials. Watch a movie. If there's a movie about the novel, definitely, because sometimes students will post on the blog about the difference, and then I can ask them as a question. Again, my goal is to give you a final that is not too writing intensive, because you'll have already written a lot during the semester, and to give you a project that that is easier and that I can use to give you 50 points at a point in the semester when you might really need it. So that is my goal, is to play to your strengths and to give you 50 points, and then to go over this novel.